Welcome to the good friends. We're so glad you could attend. Come inside. Come inside. Russ, what's up?
Carnival 9. There you go.
There you go.
No, I don't have a pre-show today. I was just on Sirius for an hour, so I didn't have a chance.
Don't worry about it. You don't have to do anything.
Yeah, you talked about Shane is enough of a pre-show.
Let's just start. That was the quickest pre-show ever.
It was.
Let it be known that today's pre-show was Russ telling you that he doesn't have a pre-show. All right.
Yeah, but he said
it is Friday. And then Kevin saying something. Hello, Hockey World. It's Friday, June 23rd, 2023.
I'm Michael Agello. Come and see the show.
I'm Russ Cohen. I'm not singing.
I didn't either.
I'm Kevin Allen. Me neither. So.
And I'm Eklund. And I'm singing, but not yet. That's a teaser. Welcome to the HockeyBuzzcast on HockeyBuzz.com. This is the podcast that comes every Monday through Friday to fill you on the comings and goings of the hockey world. And today we're going to start with everyone's favorite thing, the Board of Governors. Absolutely nothing more exciting than a good old-fashioned Board of Governors discussion.
Well,
okay. Go ahead, Mike. So what do you got first? Give us Mike. Mike's the one who likes this kind of stuff the most. So you start with it, Mike. What's going on?
Well, okay, a couple things, bookkeeping things. The
podcasters are now getting paid $1 million a year. That I heard and understand that was being put in there.
Okay, pay me first. The salary cap is set at $83.5 million.
Okay.
Bettman all but guaranteed that that's what was going to be the case. He said, there's still some escrow. So it sounded like the PA and the NHL were not on the same page. That I think the NHL wanted to get more wiggle room, but the players are not interested in paying any more in escrow. So that was a non-starter.
Can we talk about this for a second? Because this is the most ridiculous thing in the world to me. The players here, this is like the owners playing the players like a fiddle, kind of. You know what I mean, Kevin? At all by that, it feels like.
Well, I mean, the problem is through the years they've developed a relationship that if you want something, you got to give something,
right?
And both sides play that. But the whole, I understand the psychology of why players, don't want to pay into escrow because they take your money and then they do with it what they want, and then if you overpay, you get a refund. So I understand that nobody likes that. But saying that, it's just to assure that you're going to get 50% of the, the revenue. So, it really shouldn't be as big a deal, and especially when, they earn a lot of money, so it's not like they don't that extra 2 or 3% that they needed to live on. So
and by agreeing to just letting escrow go, the owners will raise the cap more.
Yeah. Exactly.
So what is the point of this? That's why I feel like the cap owners are okay, we won't raise the cap. We understand you don't want to pay escrow. That's why I feel like they're being played like a fiddle.
The point is that I believe this is the case, and we've talked about this before. The players don't understand the concept of escrow.
No.
This is a 50-50 split. They're accounting for everything in terms of revenue coming in. I don't understand why this is. I mean, they're actually costing themselves because if you increase the salary cap, Russ, to $85 million or $85.5 million, they're getting the money.
Right. I think this goes back to maybe 5-10 years ago when it first started, and the players were warned, don't do it. You don't want to do it. You want 100% of your money, all that stuff. And I think they've just clinged on to it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you actually polled the Americans, homeowners, most of them don't have an understanding of the escrow. They get and each year you get this thing where it says, you don't have enough in your escrow, so you got to fund it. And then you look at it and go, well, what's that all about? So
I worked in mortgage banking for 17 years, so I know it's escrow is a good thing because then you don't have to worry about county taxes or insurance,
which is a wonderful thing not to have to worry about. And we bought a house without mortgage one time, and it's actually the one thing I missed. The thing I did like about it was that I enjoyed. I mean, you enjoy owning it full out, but you don't enjoy having to deal with the freaking taxes.
I mean, that's one of the issues in America today is, when you get old, like me, your house is eventually paid for, but then you forget, then you're on fixed income if you're not working, and then you've got to pay your property taxes, which in the Northeast or, in parts of the Michigan, taxes are really high. So
It's
suddenly,
like buying a car every year, and it's like
Oh, listen, your Michigan taxes compared to New Jersey, I just laugh at you. Come on.
That's why I'll be
No.
working till I croak.
no, I mean, I know that's fair. I know that the Michigan or that the Northeast taxes are heavy.
Pennsylvania,
I
Virginia is not too
live
bad.
in the People's Republic of New York. Okay, so a couple other things. Franchise valuations. I know that Gary Bettman spoke to Elliot Friedman about the fact that the Ottawa sale may not be essentially stamped by the Board of Governors until September. So that means Ann Lauer is not going to have any kind of say-so in terms of the. I mean, maybe he'll be consulted, but he can't go in and fire Peter Dorian or do anything like that.
Nah, but raise your hand if you believe that he's not going to have any influence.
Right.
So, yeah.
One of the interesting things, though, I wish I could have, about 7 years ago, bought shares in MLS&E because Larry Tannenbaum, who was the owner, part owner of the Leafs, got in on the ground floor of the Raptors. MLS&E has become like a major sports conglomerate. He only owned 25%. He's keeping a small percentage, but he sold the majority of his percentage to the municipal pension fund in Ontario for $8 billion. I mean, then this is not just the Leafs. This is the Raptors, TFC, all the different venues, the Argonauts. So it's more than just the teams, but pretty penny. But it's okay. $950 million for the Ottawa Senators. Now $8 billion for a percentage of the Leafs. And I read an article in Sportico, which is a sports business journal, that said that that possibly TSN and Sportsnet could block this because they had the sort of the right of first refusal to buy up any shares if Tannenbaum sold them. So apparently the Board of Governors gave their stamp of approval, but I don't know whether this is going through or not yet. But still, the valuation of these franchises are just skyrocketing.
Yeah, no, it's unbelievable. I mean, I brought this up before, but I was doing a story and talked to a guy that was trying to buy an NFL team, and he said, I'm a billionaire and I can't afford to buy an NFL team unless I get someone else to come in with me.
Right.
That's just how it is now.
It goes to show you that no one can buy anything.
And Jeff Vinnick sold a part of Tampa Bay. He started a piece of Tampa Bay. He's the majority owner, but he sold a chunk of it. So
yeah, I mean it's amazing. I think what Vinnick did down in Tampa to transform not only that the competitive product on the ice, but the development around that. I mean, he's turned that into such an incredible money making purchase. It's
true.
So
now
he's got a great house down there too. Like he lives right around the corner from my in-laws on Longboat Key, and he's actually right on what's called St. Armand Circle, and his house is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
We drive past it all the time. It's beautiful. It's right on the water, and it's got a big Tampa Bay Lightning thing. It's pretty cool. It's very cool to see.
And they do everything right too. Like I don't know if I think they still do it where they celebrate somebody in the community every game that's done something to to charitable work, and they honor them.
They do still do that because they did that during the Cup last year.
Area. I mean, and all the way down, even Longboat Key, which is like an hour and a half south of Tampa, is that's not. It's still very much Tampa Bay Lightning country. When you go to the bars, or go to the places around when there's a game there, it's a game on. It's on. They really have right.
I mean, it trickles down even to the point when, like their fantasy camps. Like I had never heard of this until they did it, and now I think a lot of people do it. But they actually sign the people at their fantasy camps to a Lightning. I don't know if they still do it, but they did the 1 day contract.
Nice.
They never the Lightning, and it's just a cool gimmick.
Yeah,
it's a really cool gimmick.
Yeah, you can frame that and say I was a member of the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, for one day. So
okay, couple other things. Bettman was asked by Elliot Friedman about Quenneville and Bowman. He still hasn't talked to them. He was asked about the 2018 the Team Canada World Junior team. The report didn't want to talk about it. Really said we're still waiting for the report to come out. They're going to bury this during the summer, after the draft, after free agency. You know that's what's going to happen. But the big thing that came out of this was the decision by the NHL to tell NHL clubs that they are not allowed any longer to, in pregame warmups, to wear any kind of special jerseys. And that's not just pride jerseys. It's military appreciation jerseys. It's Hockey Fights Cancer jerseys. It's any type of, you can only wear your jersey. Now, what this does, and when we talked about this, when the whole Provorov thing came up, I knew that this was and when it continued to happen over and over again with the Islanders, with Reimer, with the Rangers, and then teams basically started to opt out of having any kind of on ice presentation. Yeah. You knew that this was a one of these death by 1,000 cuts type situation that the NHL just didn't want to deal with, because you can never get every player to get on the same page about an issue. So
there's a road I can go down here, Mike, but oh my gosh, I don't know if I want to, but it's right. The first thing that I heard when you and I just found out about this before the show, because when you told me about this thing, and Kevin found out about it just for the show too, and it's like, on one hand, okay, yes, this fixes the problem, right? Because there's no more issues, and people should still be able to, they can still make their own statements, they can still be their own thing. They'll still tape their dicks maybe during Pride Week with pink or whatever. They can do that kind of, or breast cancer or whatever, that thing kind of thing.
Not in the pregame, but if they want to do it practice or something like that, sure. But anything,
are they going to ban them from taping their sticks certain ways?
Nothing. It's uniform. The whatever they do during
uniform. Okay, so
nothing.
The most misunderstood word in the world right now is the word woke, right? Like the concept of woke is like insanely misunderstood. It's a talking point on both sides for the wrong reasons. Everybody has it wrong, basically, not just the one side or the other. Florida is the least woke state in the country, which they always say, the governor comes out and says. And this is another thing that people are going to jump onto, because like we can't honor the military anymore because of the fact that we had to honor GGQ or whatever. So, and you can see where this is going, right? Like this is going to be like, they're going to say this is like, we're so woke that we're not going to honor the military. When we used to honor the military, but now we can't.
Yeah.
No, you can honor the military.
I know, but can you see where this is going, Kev? You know what I'm saying?
Well, it reminds me of 1960s parent style, where you have 4 kids and somebody does something that you don't like, and you warn them and you say, look, you're going to ruin it for everybody. If you keep doing this, then we're not going to do anything. And then that happens, and then one of the child says to his brother, see what you did?
Yeah.
Now I can't do this because you've done that. And that's exactly what's happening here. So Mike, just to make sure I'm clear on this, so that you can do things in pregame, but you just can't wear any jerseys that are different. Is that?
Well, the way Bettman said it, he says every team will have a Pride night. Every team will have military appreciation night or Hockey Fights Cancer night, but it's the players on the ice in pregame or during the games. They are not going to be allowed to wear any kind of alternate, like no jersey, no rainbow pride tape, nothing. They'll sell those jerseys, the pride jerseys or the Hockey Fights Cancer jerseys, but the players will not be asked to wear them. Will not be authorized to wear them. So
there's a couple things here. Once they can't wear them on the ice, it doesn't get talked about on TV. Then it doesn't, and so that hurts the charity. And I think the NHL, when they announced they were going to do this, should have had like a plan in place to say, okay, we understand we're going to impact these different charities and different organizations, and we have a plan to make sure that they're not going to lose any visibility. But they didn't do that. All they did was come out with a heavy hand and say, now nobody can do it, like Kevin said. And I got to be honest, if I was a player, I'd still wear a Pride jersey under my jersey, and I'd still, do other things, and I would take a picture of myself in the locker room, and I would do all that because, hey, you can't tell me exactly what to do. I get you're a corporation, so when I'm out on the ice, that's fine, but I'm still going to celebrate these things and try and help these causes my own way now.
And you can take a picture in the locker room, and you can wear it like off the ice.
And
You can talk about it. I mean, I think they'll probably encourage that, and that's a good thing.
And the important aspect too. I mean, clearly the visibility certainly helped to it. But I mean, if you do, sell the jerseys and you get people who come and show up and wear the jerseys, and if there are enough of them, television cameras will capture that. But more importantly, the biggest part of all that was, every team always had one or two players who took it upon themselves to be welcoming to the community. Like, you've heard, stories of players who, they went in before the game, the guy and his wife went in and, talked to everybody, and they met with them after the games. There was always, somebody that feels strongly about
so much respect for those players, because they're showing up and, some players are showing up saying, oh, what's night? Pride night, whatever. Yeah. But other players are aware of whether the surroundings and what's happening around with them. I respect those guys.
Yeah, no, I do too. And the same thing with military. I mean, a lot of people have, siblings or cousins and stuff that's serving, and those people come out and, they deal with it as well. And, it can still be good. But Russ is also right. You lose that, guaranteed television visibility when they don't wear the jerseys. But from the Leafs perspective, you can be somewhat sympathetic because all they're trying to do is avoid controversy. But they could have at least mitigated the damage, as Russ said, by guaranteeing something. So,
I think when it got really rolling, and when you started to have this sort of canceling and shaming of guys like James Reimer in San Jose, and he put out a letter saying, I have nothing against the Pride Night of the community. It's just my personal beliefs. I don't want to wear the jersey, and it's like, this avoids that, and I think so. I think that
it also takes the issue
off the ice
to the place where it should. Like it allows the team to still be the team, right? That's the big thing. It allows the team to stay the team and it takes the issue. And I don't think there's I don't think there was another option. I think this is the best decision they could have made. I really do. I think that, hopefully the television, like what we can hope for with TV, Russ, is make, they do intermission reports, they do something about it.
Yeah, it's not the same. But I mean, look, now if a team wants to honor a sick kid and all wear the same jersey to honor a sick kid in their community for a game, they can't do it.
Yeah, but I don't think too many were doing that anyway because there's a lot of sick kids.
No, I know, but I'm just giving an example.
I know what you're saying. And your point
still take time out. The entity of the team can still honor it. But the players themselves don't. What they wear, on the ice has always been their uniforms, and I can see that being okay.
Okay, but again, we also have to acknowledge it really doesn't matter most of the time what the team thinks. When people are looking for direction, or young people are looking for, somebody to look up to, they're looking to these players, and these players not having an opinion or deciding that I don't want to take an opinion on this doesn't help that. And honestly, they do get paid a certain degree to be role models, whether they like it or not. That is part of the deal when you are an athlete and you're a pro athlete in this country.
But they're not being prevented from being role models. They're just being prevented from wearing a Pride jersey on the ice. They can be, James Van Riemsdyk or Morgan Riley, who's walked in the Pride Parade in Toronto. Any player has the freedom to express themselves in regards to the LGBT.
Not on the ice, they don't.
No, but on the ice, they're working.
That's really? They never had the freedom before to express themselves with their uniforms anyway. Like that wasn't the
no. Well, I mean, they did for the military. I mean, whether somebody liked it or not, they all were military.
It'd be like, what if we had a Vietnam War going on or something like that, and someone were like, give Peace a Chance jersey or just by themselves on the ice, but instead of everybody else because they really felt something about that for warm up. It's kind of the equivalent of that, It's like they've never really been allowed to do such a thing. They've always been like, this is a jersey, and there is something that I do very much appreciate listen, Russ, what you're saying is not wrong. Okay, I'm not trying to disagree with
Oh,
you.
no, I'm not mad. I get
What you're
it.
saying is not wrong, but what
I'm just showing the other side of it.
Yeah,
Sure.
no, and I think that's really important. But I do appreciate the concept of keeping sports and controversy separated as much as possible, because I think that there's enough controversy in the world. And sports is the escape for that,
Yeah.
The NHL wanted to avoid
Yeah.
a Kaepernick type of rolling controversy, and I think this ends it.
Well, I mean, no one wants to hear this because no one likes the middle of the road approach.
Yeah.
You especially in today's America, you either got to be for it or against it, whatever it is. You can't straddle the fence. But this is the everybody's right. Like players have the right to do what they want to do in terms of being role models for specific causes.
Yeah.
But the NHL is a business, and they have the right to try to protect their business by not having the controversy that this results in. So they're just trying to look at it from the business end, and players who are saddened by this still have their opportunity to express themselves. There's nothing stopping them on a regular basis from engaging with the community and of their choosing, and being vocal about it. So they can still do it, and they can still do things on Gay Pride night as well. So
and on social media they can.
One more quick thing about this, Mike. Sorry. So yeah, I agree with you, Kevin. It's like we do have to take into account, like when the for example, when the issued program was going on here in Philly, and we were all talking about that, and the one thing that I didn't have a comeback for was, Proverb has the right to believe what he believes, and forcing him to do something is not right either. So we're in a spot where, and even if I think what he believes is bad or harmful to others, or whatever, he does have the right to do that. So the concept, everybody in America has the right to believe what they believe, as long as they're not hurting others directly, right? So I felt like this forcing players to wear one thing if they support something, like say you're anti-war or whatever, like say you're anti what the government's doing right now in foreign countries or whatever, and then you have military night and you're like, I'm not going to wear that because I don't believe I think the military is just a big business thing making money. There's all kinds of different things.
What if I decide I want to wear it post game and I wear it, and then a week later the league goes, you know what, you can't do that post game anymore either?
Well, that could be the case.
They can stop you that.
Well, I think because the people you see guys.
I wonder. It makes me wonder.
It does. No, I mean, and listen, but I think that they're not. They're just saying we can't do something anymore, that we can't do something that we used to not do anyway. It's kind of a weird situation. So to me, I think people in the chat room are like ripping on me. I just wanted to mention it for a second because I had when Karen Haynes, who writes for us, wrote a really good article about the two Canadian women who got married recently and from the hockey team. I put that as my top story for the day because I thought it was a fantastic story, and a great story. And people are like, oh, Hockey Buzz has always been left wing, and they had a tough time with that. Well, that's a hockey story, guys. It's a hockey story.
Yeah.
It's a union rights story.
It's about the best female hockey player in the world.
In the world.
Story.
Right, and that's a story. And and just because she's marrying a woman, it's still a story. It doesn't. I think the reality is, people have to relax a little bit, and to sit there and say that Hockey Buzz is left wing because I wrote that or whatever is ridiculous.
But Kevin's right. In this polarizing world, if you take one stance or you write one thing, everybody thinks you're on one side.
It is also my website. I also have the right to say what I want to say on it too. And I'm not hurting anybody by saying that. And I have respect for the people who were involved, and I have respect for Karen who wrote the article. So to me, that was a no brainer. So that's just anyway. Let's move on.
Yeah. Now the other thing, and when I heard the names announced for the Hockey Hall of Fame, and like you and I, as members of the goaltending fraternity, were probably beating our chest. I just think, not that they got the wrong goalies, because I've always said Barrasso deserved to be in the Hall of Fame, and Mike Vernon was sort of a borderline guy. I just, they chose three goaltenders. Lundqvist was a no-brainer. Barrasso, I thought eventually was going to get in. I didn't think it was going to be this year. I'm still waiting for guys like Cujo and Richter, and the people are making a case for John Van Beesbrook. I'm not sure about that. That's a borderline choice. But the guy that I still can't believe did not get in was Alexander McGillney. I don't.
Yeah, that's the crazy part.
Yeah,
it's unbelievable.
Well,
yeah, it is. This
is what I would say about all that. I talked about the issue before it happened. If you remember, I just explaining that what people often forget is you've got to reach the standard of being able to get in the Hall of Fame. But even if you achieve that level of performance, you're still not done, because you now have to compete against whatever they throw at you in the Hall of Fame selection committee. And, as I explained the other day, if Lemieux and Gretzky and Bobby Orr had all retired on the same day, and McGinnis in the same year, and McGinnis had come up against that group, he wouldn't have got in the first ballot. I mean, in his first time. And that's just the way it happens, And so what happened yesterday, two things happened. I think personally that the selection committee did make an effort to address the idea that there had been a disproportionate number of goalies that had entered. I think there was an idea that this is an off year, and off by I mean we don't have any superstar players that have to get in on their first time in, so we'll address that. And if you look at the guys that did get in, the minimum amount of retirement time, I believe, was Turgeon at 15 or 16 years.
Right.
So the other two guys were 20 plus, 20 and 21.
Right.
And so, this was another Mark Howe situation. Mark Howe waited a very long time, and it's not like they became better candidates. Their credentials are their credentials.
Right.
But what changed is this was a year where they didn't have. Now, they had to make a judgment call. In my mind, they have to know that everybody thinks that McGillney should be in.
Right.
That's the attitude, I think, in the hockey community. So I think they made a judgment call and said, these guys have been waiting longer. They're in that same group, right on the edge of it. They've got the credentials, but they have a hard time competing against the superstars.
Yeah.
And they opted, right or wrong, to go with Vernon and Barrasso and Turgeon.
The only thing I was happy about is with Turgeon, because I know we had talked about him on the show before, and I wasn't against it. I just forgot about him, honestly. The last time I argued about it was now at least they're not looking at his era he can't go in because it was just too easy to score.
No.
And I think now they're starting to change on that. Maybe as they've changed over some of the board members, that the outlook on that's different.
Well, I mean,
who the hell is Mike Richter not in this group?
I know it's
how is Mike Richter?
Cujo, Mike Richter, and Beesbrook.
I think it has everything to do. How long, Russ will know the answer is. How long has Richter been out? Has he been retired?
Over 15 years.
Yeah, it's about 15 years.
Yeah, but it's not 20.
No,
the two goalies they took in had been there longer, and the problem is these times.
Next year is 20. Actually, it's more than 15. I think it's 18, 19.
Oh, is it really? So
it's really close, Kevin.
Let's look it up.
I'm looking it up.
Mike Vernon versus Richter, I don't get it at all.
His last year was 03.
Okay, so 20 years. Yeah, it has been.
I don't get Vernon over Mike Richter. I don't see Vernon
so
over.
You just think he's a better choice than Barrasso? Is that your?
I think he's a better choice.
Than Vernon. I think Barrasso. I think
Jason Vernon. I mean,
But Vernon has the one distinction that Vernon has, and I think this was significant. I mean, I'm just guessing, having been on the committee, and again, just to explain sort of how this all works. Everybody they throw at you has great credentials.
Yeah.
So you end up parsing it and looking at the smallest things. And Vernon won cups with two different franchises.
Right.
And I think that probably aided him.
And Barrasso
counterpoint.
And Barrasso had
he won a cup with the Rangers, who hadn't won it since 1940, and he was the reason they won the cup. And on top of that, He's the reason that the USA wins the gold medal in the
World
it's like
Cup.
to me both of
Well,
the World Cup.
I agree with you on the Rangers. I would not say that was the case for the World Cup. I would say
Right.
he was a very important factor, but there were other factors.
Remember, Barrasso was the goalie for the U.S. in what 2002 in Salt Lake. So had they won the gold that year,
Yeah.
that probably would have hastened. Now,
I mean, I will say this: when Eric Lindros became a Ranger, and I was chatting with him about Richter, he felt like Richter was the reason, like just him.
Yeah.
So I'm sure it's pretty split.
I watched it recently, and I watched that whole World Cup recently because someone gave me a DVD of that World Cup, and Richter was my MVP. He was that good.
He was fantastic.
Well, I mean, everybody's got their opinion. I wrote a book too on American hockey history, and I
have it.
And I spent a lot of time on that, and I interviewed everybody on that team. And most of the people thought that the stars of that team were Guerin and Tkachuk because they changed the way America played. Before, when America went in the corner with Canada, they didn't get the puck. In the World Cup, when they went in the corner with Canada, with Tkachuk and Guerin, they always got the puck.
No, and I agree with that. No questions asked. But again, goalies this is another example of goalies not getting the respect because that Canada team had so much friggin' firepower, and Richter was unbelievable.
Yeah. No, but I mean, goalies are always important, so I'm not denying that. So, but
Cujo's last year was 2009, so it's only been 14 years. So
I mean,
factor.
I having been on those committees, I'm just saying that I don't think they were trying to slight Richter. I think they thought they were making the right choices. Now, maybe if I say in terms of ability, who do I like out of those three goalies? I'm taking Richter.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's wrong to think that Vernon or Barrasso deserved it more. So
I'll tell you what, I think we're in dangerous ground now with the Hockey Hall that you almost can't say someone doesn't deserve to be in because it's like we're really getting to that point.
Well, you don't want to sit there and say somebody does. I mean, these are great goal. Everybody we're talking about are great players, but the reality is, if remember that Stanley Cup team, and I hated them because I was a Flyers fan. I was a kid, but remember that Stanley Cup team, that Rangers team. Messier comes over and is a salvation. He's the one who takes the whole thing. But if Richter had been traded to that team at the same time, and there would have been no question that Richter was the salvation of that team. It's like the reality is like Richter was there the entire time, his entire career. Right. He didn't go anywhere else. But he, the difference. I saw Rangers teams fail, and Russ, you saw Rangers teams fail many times.
Richter won the job from Van Beesbrook. Like that's
I'm supportive of Van Beesbrook too. So
now I will say this in John's defense: when he lacerated his wrist by putting it through a table accidentally, it hurt him.
Now I'll just just one thing. Barrasso had possibly the best rookie year of almost any play. I mean, he won the Vezina, the Calder, and was a first-team All-Star, and as a 19-year-old coming out of a Massachusetts high school. So to this day,
that's an unbelievable accomplishment. I'm just saying, in the old days when you argued the Hall of Fame, it would kind of be like no argument. Then it got to be like, but this guy's in now. And now and Clark Gillies was one of those first that it's like, wait, if Clark Gillies is in, now I can come up with six other players that are in.
Yeah, you can't do that because the Hall of Fame has been around for so long now that, as somebody will say to you when you say something like that, we can't have one mistake compounded by another.
It's the Bill Mazeroski.
I mean, we just, you can't do that because you don't know what was going on at the time and all that. Now, that's why I always say, to be a good committee member, and I'm fresh from having just spent 2 hours as a member of the U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame committee. So I just was on a Zoom call where, 2 hours debating players and all that. And I said to the group, because we now have, I've been on this committee for a while and we've changed up and we have some new additions. And I said to this group, we've had a bunch of great ones. This was a great committee because we got just really a lot of NHL people and thinking we just had some great debates. But one thing I do agree on, like in order to be a good committee member, you got to accept the fact that there are many versions of the truth. There are many right answers.
Right.
And that's the problem because, all these, as I said, everybody has got good credentials. And, Eck feels strongly about that it should be Richter, and maybe you do too, Russ.
I do.
I love Richter too.
I do.
But I also accept the fact that I've been in those committees and I could see, where you're getting it down and somebody will just say, look, two different organizations. And, once when he was young and once when he was a little older, he figured it out and, all that. You're splitting hairs. It's just so hard because, like you said, all these guys are, are unbelievable.
And let me just say what I think personally, and I could be wrong, but it's my opinion. With the way the world is right now, with what's going on between Russia and Ukraine, I think Mogilny got hurt by the international situation, and maybe it's like, well, the war might be over next year and he's not going anywhere. So maybe we wait till next year and avoid the controversy. He's clearly deserving. He's been deserving for a long time. And when you let guys like Correa and Alfredson and Marty St. Louis, who have about the same amount of points, same amount of goals, and they got in, he hasn't. That's where I think Mogilny is so deserving.
I will say that here's the thing about that. It's not that we don't discuss points, but again, I'm fresh off of this.
Yeah.
There was no discussion in that I can recall about who has how many points and whatever in today. We moved all beyond that. We just kind of let's all stipulate that everybody's got a lot of points.
Right.
That's pretty much what we do. I mean, nobody says that, but and then we get into talking about things like, how important were you to, just like Eck was doing about, how important Richter was to that World Cup team.
Right.
And, we start talking about that, and we talk about the intangibles, leadership, the difference between, it came up today. I'm not going to say who it was, but someone had won an American Hockey League trophy, and that became, someone that got thrown in, So, when you're splitting hairs, all that thing matters. But, the best committee members are the ones who are pretty open-minded and are pretty fair. I like the guys with passion, though, too. So when you come in and, they don't pound on the desk, but a lot of guys have guys that they feel strongly about. I'm among those people. I have some people that I feel strong.
The other part that was maddening some of the fans was there was only one woman voted in, and there could have been two. And there was no reason that you couldn't have more than one. Like, why?
And there were three very deserving names, and there were more than that. But there were, Megan Duggan, Carolyn Ouellette, and Jen Bottrell. They were all mentioned, and they only chose one.
Yeah.
And it was. I mean, I'm very happy for Ken Hitchcock, and I'm very happy that for the family of Pierre Lacroix that they got in, because they were I think they were very deserving as well. So it was a blast, but it was just odd of the omissions.
It's hard, but then someone has to go. So who is it? Who you throwing off? Turgeon, Barrasso, Vernon. Who do you want? That's the other thing too. When we were done,
you see that the women's hall part of it doesn't affect the men's. It's a whole different thing, and that's another misunderstood part of the ballot.
Well, then I would say if that's the case, I didn't realize that now, because
that's what I had been told. I don't know if that's
so. What that means is there was a split vote. So then someone didn't get the requisite amount. That's why that didn't. That's my guess, because you got to get X amount of percent.
Yes, you got to be like 75% or whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean that was a discussion. Again, I'm trying to be careful because we're not allowed to talk about.
No, I get it.
One of the discussions we had today is that we had so many candidates that we were possibly going to split the vote.
Right.
And it's always a little tricky. So
and that may be probably what happened, because there is a maximum of two, and the women shouldn't affect the men's because it's its own category.
I mean, shouldn't Mogilny's story of being brought over in the trunk of a car and all that, I mean, that to me, like, that also plays into it. I mean,
I'm sure it does. That's why it's hard for me to think that the Russian thing caused any problems, because I think the Russian thing plays in his favor. The fact that
it should.
I mean, you could just that he's a builder.
Yeah,
you could really argue that Mogilny's a builder. I mean, honestly, like, because of him doing that so many Russian players.
It should, because it was escaping the Soviet Union. I mean, I saw people posting something where he was getting yelled at in Vancouver with Mike Keenan as his coach, and his retort was, "I got shot at by the Russians. You think that what you're saying is scaring me?" That type of thing.
Right.
I mean, no, but the problem is he's a team president in the KHL right now. He is over in Russia. So
Right.
I think the whole international situation might have been a factor. Maybe it cost him a couple votes. He's gonna get in. There's no doubt in my mind he's gonna.
Yeah, the biggest thing is like any other Hall of Fame, you just want to see the player get in before they possibly pass away.
Yes.
And that's happened too many times where all of a sudden, like some organization retires this guy's number and the guy passed away 6 months ago.
Pat
You just don't want that.
The
Yeah.
Pat Burns thing a few years ago was a black, he deserved to get in, and he got in, I think, a couple years later, but it would have been nice if he could have gotten in.
Well, I also think that we have so many talented players in the league right now.
Sure.
I think more talented players in the league right now than we've ever had in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It's going to get tougher. That's
exactly right. That, it's a thing we face all the time.
Or they'll be like the NFL and they'll just put more in. The NFL puts in cartloads of players.
clown car full.
Yeah, I mean, just think about it. The NFL. It's massive.
What's our limit? Clown car full. Yeah. That's our limit.
Everybody wants us to talk rumors, and I think we should start.
Yeah, we talk rumors. It's fine.
Let's do rumors.
Let's start with this. I feel sorry for the fans of the Winnipeg Jets and the Calgary Flames because it seems right now nobody wants to play there. Because now you got Scheifele, who wants out. Dubois will not sign a contract. Hellebuck in Winnipeg. And Wheeler, who's got a year left, who they're either going to buy out or they're going to trade. And now in Calgary, Hannafin wants out. He wants to play for a U.S. team. Apparently, Tyler Toffoli's told him he doesn't want to come back. They're trying. Right now. There's a little questionable situation with Lindholm. I mean, you're talking about really just massive changes with core players. This is going to be tough for Cheveldayoff and tough for the new GM Conroy in
Craig Conroy. Yeah, the one thing I'll say is because I spoke to some people about it yesterday. This is why I always say when people say, "Oh, Cheveldayoff should be fired," I'm like, no, he really shouldn't. He has the hardest job in the league because he knows everybody's on borrowed time when they're there, and very few players are going to stay, and he has to act accordingly. And now it's like all hitting the fan at once. But now Calgary, this is the worst. Like in the last 2 years, it's really affected Calgary, and so that one took me by surprise, honestly.
Yeah, because Calgary is usually a pretty popular city.
Yeah,
it's a nice place to play. It definitely is a great city to play in. I mean, these are surprising. I mean, but some of them are not just like Dubois is not necessarily related to Winnipeg as much as he wants to just play elsewhere. He was
going to do that anyhow. Yeah. I agree, but he didn't want to play in Winnipeg. We know that.
He didn't want to play in Columbus. He probably wouldn't want to play. LA, the Kings are trying to get him right now, and I think
Montreal too.
Yeah, Montreal. Of course, Montreal's where everybody knows he wants to play. It's like the worst kept secret in the world, right? So the idea is, but LA's trying to push for him. But LA wants to make sure they can sign him because they're afraid he could just jump to Montreal too. So,
well, that's the story of the next 2 weeks.
Oh yeah.
When it comes to rumors and Kev, I mean, there's been a lot of talk about Brett Pesce in Carolina. And Brett Pesce, when we talked about it before, he just changed agents to Judd Moldaver, who's a big agent at Orr Wasserman. He's Austin Matthews' agent. He's a year away from unrestricted free agency. He's making $4 million. Carolina reportedly wants to sign him, but the agent change would indicate that he wants to make big money. And Carolina doesn't sign players to long-term deals when they're 28, 29, or 30 years old.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, this goes to one of the things we talked about the other day, and, you believe strongly you got to hold the line, but there's always a lot of pressure on you when you do that. I mean, they have arguably one of the top three defenses in the National Hockey League, and he's part of that. So if they trade him away, they've got to replace him. And can they get anybody of his level of play? And probably not. And they're far apart. It sure feels like they're going to end up trading him. I'm confident that they've got offers. They want first round picks. And first round pick, I should say, and I think they have that if they want to trade him. They don't want to trade him, so they're trying to figure it out. And I mean, could they come together? maybe, but not if he insists on 8 years. They're not going to come together.
Right.
If he's willing to do, 5 at 5.7 or something, like, could that get done? I don't know. Maybe.
I will say the benefit that Calgary has, I do think Hellebuck's going to price himself out. I do. I just think that most teams don't want to play that big price. But I think the benefit that Calgary has is these guys are on bargain deals. Hannafin's on a bargain deal. Like, these are cheap deals, and that will help them at least get what they need to get.
Yeah,
for 1 year, though.
Right. That's
it's better than nothing.
I mean, if these players, like Hellebuck wants to go to a team that will sign him for the max deal. So you got to. But the thing is like, if say it's New Jersey doesn't want to sign him to a max deal.
Well, no, I don't think they would.
Well, New Jersey is very interested in him, but New Jersey also has to deal with Timo Meyer's contract, so they're like in the process.
Mercer.
The people that want these guys, and this is a question I asked Steve Yzerman at his press briefing too, where I just said, I explained that the teams that want these players that are available don't have the salary cap space to get them. The people that can fit it in don't want to give up the assets to get them. And I said, can you give me your strategy? And he says, I just think you explained it better than I could. That's what he said. And he just said, it's just a conundrum where, you don't like, do you think the Red Wings are going to give up multiple first round picks to land any of these players?
No, actually, Kev, I'll give you a good example. The other day when that Scott Lawton stuff was going on, and Konechny was going on with the Red Wings, I went on somewhere and I said, Steve Yzerman is the worst guy to trade with because I already know, based through you, what guys you can't even touch. So you have to decide if there are one or two prospects that are left that you even want before he'd even agree to a deal. Yeah. Otherwise, there's no point in even calling him.
Well, I mean, he brought up the point, like, he's not farther ahead if he brings in one proven guy, but he gives up, a first round pick and a guy that they think is going to be part of the foundation for years to come. So he said, I want to improve my team. And, it's not like he's not aggressive. I mean, he signed 7 guys last summer, but the difference is he signed all of those guys. He only did 1 4-year deal. And I bet he regrets it. That was with Sherratt. But because I think he likes to go 2 or 3 years on his guys.
But he went that extra year because he likes the way he plays. So that's what a lot of GMs do.
Yeah, they go that he just, and that's why the other problem is, like, he gave Larkin, although something interesting happened too. I just was telling people this. All of a sudden, Steve Yzerman doesn't really gush about any of his players, never has. Mm-hmm. But he yesterday, or not yesterday, whenever he had his press brief a couple of days ago, he said he called Larkin his foundation block that they were building around. I've never heard him say that before. He's never really sort of acknowledged that, but suddenly now he's doing that. But so would he trade that 17 pick? I think he would. So, but the only thing you got to worry about, and I said this to a few reporters, and nobody could think of any examples. Whenever there's been a deal that Yzerman has made, he's made a lot of them. We've never heard anything about it before it happened.
Yeah,
the deal. It has never happened. Like go back to Nedeljkovic, go back to Mantha deal, the Leddy deal with the Islanders. None of those deals. Hronek last year, there were no rumors about any of that. No, the deals just happen. It's just like they mysteriously occurred to both general managers simultaneously.
Right. He obviously has that,
So this Konechny deal is so public that it makes me skeptical.
Right.
That. Now,
well, I will tell you this, Kev. I think there was a quick discussion, and by the time Briere started talking about it yesterday at the presser, where he was saying it was unlikely, I think it had already run its course. That was my feeling.
Yeah. Well, the leak had to come out of Philly because nobody in Detroit would. First of all, I don't think Steve tells anybody what he
actually. I did a little research on where the leak came out of, Kevin, and it wasn't out of Philly, but it wasn't out of Detroit, but it was out of another team that was interested in Konechny leaked it, so that they had talked. to Philly, I guess.
Oh, well, that's another thing that will irritate Steve.
Yeah.
He doesn't like his strategy being discussed.
But it wasn't really that he had any connection with Yzerman, because he was only this person I was talking to was only talking to Philly about Konechny. So, but then
how
Philly
did he know that Detroit was involved?
Well, because probably in discussions
Maybe
with
the agent.
Philly said, "Well, no, we have a better deal with Detroit." That's
yeah. No,
they should can the other team. So no, I'll tell you this, Kev, because I think Detroit and Buffalo are in similar circumstances. Buffalo is looking for a top 4 defenseman. They should be also looking for a goaltender, but we'll debate that later. But they're looking for a top 4 defenseman. I think they would give up the number 13 pick if they could get Pesce, or if they could get Hannafin or somebody like that. But then they want to sign that guy, and that's the problem. It's like they're going to sign Dahlin, they're going to sign Power. Do they want to spend $6 million on Brett Pesce? I don't know if they want to invest that kind of money in those type of defensemen.
I think if Carolina had been offered the 13,
they would have taken it.
They would have taken it.
Okay.
That's just a guess, but this draft, and Russ has been telling us for a long time, this is a very good draft. I think they would take that.
Very deep draft. The rumor I was getting I was on radio in a couple places about this week, and I was talking about, it was a 3-way rumor I put out earlier in the week, but since I've been dealing with issues with my mother's health and everything, she's doing a little bit better. Thanks, guys, for all your just all that stuff. But I haven't been on the air, so but was a 3-way deal, which I know Kevin loves my 3-way trades, but this was a big rumor through a potential 3-way trade rumor, and this was the deal. And it was a big one. So in the deal, Ottawa would try to follow along.
I've seen it on the internet. This was an internet started deal. Yeah, go ahead.
It's not an internet started deal. I was the first person who reported it, and it's been. I'm definitely the one who was out there. It's not internet started at all. It came from
Ottawa sends DeBrincat.
It came from a direct source.
Right.
Ottawa sends DeBrincat to Chicago, and a first and second round pick to San Jose. So Ottawa would send those 2 picks. San Jose would send Carlson to Ottawa and Lindblom, plus their best second round pick to Chicago, and Chicago would send Tyler Johnson to San Jose and pick up $3 million of Carlson's salary in the process.
Oh, I haven't heard that deal. I thought you were talking about the one that was all over the internet, was Konechny going to Ottawa, DeBrincat going to Detroit. And
no, this is okay. Now this is Ottawa, San Jose, Chicago. So basically, the short of it is there's a lot of picks involved.
Well, in the end, Carlson goes to Ottawa, is what you're saying.
And Carlson goes to Ottawa, Chicago, and Chicago picks up some of Carlson's contract. Brincat gets Chicago. Brincat goes to Chicago.
Why would Carlson go back to Ottawa? Why would he go back there?
And the thing
he likes Ottawa. He's always liked Ottawa.
Does his wife like Ottawa? I don't know if his wife likes Ottawa.
Well, Mike Hoffman's no longer there.
It does, but I think it was more than that. I think,
And Ottawa's a good team again. So it's like, the idea.
Yeah, but I think you have to take the family aspect into here, and I would almost guarantee his wife doesn't want to go back there.
What did San Jose get out of the deal?
They basically get out of Carlson's deal, shave $3 million, get an expiring contract in Tyler Johnson, and draft picks.
No, but what draft picks? Did they get
they get a first and a second round pick from Ottawa?
Right.
They're not doing that. No way.
Yeah, I mean, they're asking for 2 first round picks. So I mean, it's where's Ottawa's pick? How high?
I think it's
not in the top 15.
Oh, yeah. Right. I'll look. Hold on.
And that's a big deal. If it's not in the top 15, it's a big deal.
Well, I know for sure that they have asked for 2 first round picks.
Well, they definitely have asked for 2 first round picks, but they haven't been able to get it, and they haven't been able to get anybody to take Carlson's salary on. And the issue here is
so they're taking all $11 million?
No, they're not. But Chicago's taking $3 million of the salary in the deal.
Chicago is being. See, that's the thing. Chicago is being the middleman here and shaving off $3 million, but it's for 4 years. That
4 years. But Chicago's salary cap situation is that they could do that because
I'm with that on that. They could probably do that because they don't. I don't think they're going to beat it.
There's no way they're taking a first and a second. That's it. No way. Not after taking back $3 million a year.
So
they would get Tyler Johnson in the deal.
But Tyler
Johnson, wow.
San Jose doesn't have to
move Tyler Johnson.
Because they're trying to dump Tyler Johnson.
Right. Dump Tyler Johnson. San Jose dumps Carlson and Lindblom as well
But they don't have to pay anything for Carlson.
What do you mean pay anything for Carlson?
They're not retaining any salary.
They're not retaining any salary.
Wow.
Right.
Oh well,
That's-
that in itself is because
Right.
they didn't really initially, if you remember, they didn't want to retain any salary.
Right. They didn't want to retain any salary. So in this case, Chicago just takes $3 million of the salary away. Ottawa gets their player. DeBrincat goes back to Chicago.
Well, it has to be a 2024 first because Ottawa's first round pick was traded to Arizona for Chikrin.
Okay.
So it has to be a 2024.
Or Ottawa's got to have a way of getting another pick that we don't.
Or they have, right, or they're getting a pick, or they're getting a first round pick for DeBrincat.
Right.
So, well, DeBrincat's going in that deal though, right?
Maybe they're getting maybe they're getting that 19th pick from Chicago. Maybe
Chicago would get a second round pick back in this deal.
Yeah, I mean,
as well from San Jose. So San Jose would send a second round pick to Chicago. That's probably part of the picking up the $3 million aspect of it. I'm guessing.
Okay.
I don't think it would happen.
And Lindblom is somebody apparently Ottawa wants too. So Lindblom is the guy that Ottawa really wants. So that's another thing that Ottawa gets Carlson and Lindblom from San Jose. So that's
what. I have a question for you, actually, that you might be able to answer, Russ. What's taking so long on this Konechny deal? Like, it seems pretty clear that it's been talked about now for a while.
I'll tell you what I think is taking so long is the fact that they really don't want to get rid of him, but they're just testing the waters to see if they can get overwhelmed on a deal.
Exactly right.
Like they tested the waters on Lawton, like they tested the waters on Carter Hart.
Right.
Okay. All right.
They're remember, like, whenever you get a new GM, like be it Briere or anybody really, a new GM who hasn't been a GM before in the league wants to talk to as many people as they can and start developing these relationships, right? So you got these guys out there, and they'll make a lot. I've noticed this before. A new GM makes a lot of calls to a lot of people, takes a lot of calls, and just to start developing relationships with people because they don't have it. So I think you're gonna hear a lot of Flyers rumors out there, but I don't think they're really serious about moving him, Russ. I really don't.
And there are a lot of Toronto rumors right now, and especially apparently Brad Treliving is calling every GM. That he's got a reputation of being very in touch with the costs of everything. Right now, the Matthews extension and the Nylander negotiations are upmost on his priority list. But all that I've heard over the last few days is if they don't get good negotiations with Nylander and they don't think they can get him on what they think is a favorable contract, they will trade him. They're also talking to Ryan O'Reilly about re-signing him because I think that might be a plan B. Not that it's a direct fill-in for Nylander, but if they trade Nylander and they're getting draft picks and prospects back, then they have the money to re-sign O'Reilly. So what the Leafs do in the next week, and Russ, I found out they're probably having their draft pre-meeting like Yzerman had with Detroit and like Kevin Adams had a couple days ago with Buffalo and like Briere had yesterday. They're going to do it in Nashville. So they only have 3 draft picks, so they're
but it's still odd. That's very late in the game to do it.
Yes,
it's usually not the case. But I guess with everything that's going on with them, that's fine. The only thing I would say as a Leafs fan, I don't feel great about this draft with them.
No, not with 3 picks. They have the 28th pick and then the 5th and the 6th. But Kevin, the thing, and I was talking about this with Russ, and I think it's very weird that the Leafs gave permission for Kyle Dubas to be on the draft floor and to be fully involved with Pittsburgh's draft. But their conditions of talking to Treliving apparently were that Treliving could have nothing to do with the draft and can't be on the draft floor. Now, okay, you let the guy who's the director of amateur scouting handle the draft, but this is a new general manager who's got a lot of irons in the fire. He can't walk around on the draft floor and talk to his colleagues and make trades.
Yeah, that seems pretty harsh. Give him a 7th round pick.
Yeah, so, you know what? He might not mind. To be honest, everybody's texting each other to really what's happening.
Yeah.
So It's not like, I mean,
Yeah, but he'll be sitting in the Hilton in Nashville, Eck.
Yeah, it's an odd situation. It just
that's
is.
a great place. It's the best place to be because you can sit on your phone. You can yell, we're not going to give you that guy. Because when you're sitting at those tables, they got people like me hiring lip readers. Like they're out there like,
Oh, listen, I just talked about it on Sirius. I don't have to be a lip reader. I'm with the Sirius post where they are. I could see the tables. They're only like 15 feet away from me at times.
Yeah.
So.
And you can probably hear things being discussed. It's like,
Now, you really can't hear it, but you could at least witness a lot more than if you were from the media perspective.
I've never done it.
I want to tell you one more story about Steve Eisenman, and he talked about the draft. And my colleague Bob Duff asked him a question about, hey, look, how does it work? Like you talk, Steve, is basically what he said about the fact that you believe in the first round. You got to take the best available prospect regardless of position. And he said, but how does that work? Like Bob says, is like you just have a list that you've got them all ranking, and then when you get to the your position, the highest guy there. And Steve started laughing. He goes, "Yeah, you'd think it would work like that, wouldn't you?" he said, I'd like to say, in theory, that's what we do. But, it's amazing, even though we've spent months getting this all organized. When you get to that spot, I feel like I got to make a judgment, and you're thinking about it, and, the draft wasn't going exactly how you thought it would. And, and it just comes down.
Well, that's the biggest thing. I think that is the most underrated part of the draft, Kev, is like Mitchkov will be the disruptor this year, right? So if all of a sudden Mitchkov falls into a lap of a team that really was like in their mindset wasn't going to be there, that's going to cause trouble at the table.
It will, but if you just stuck to your list, you in theory you'd be fine because Mitchkov would be
but
your
that with human beings, it's not always going to work out that way.
That's exactly right. And then he did address this idea. He thinks most people don't pick based on position, and he just said, if you want an example, I'll give you one. He said, last year at the start of last year, we didn't like the left side of our defense. And he said, now we're a year later. Now, he said, we could have drafted a bunch of left things, but he said a year later, that's one of the strengths of our team.
Right.
And now we don't have.
And that is what happens.
Yeah. He said, now we don't have any right shot defense.
Right.
But I'll tell you what the most loaded draft term is best player available, because best player available is still what that team decides is the best player on their board, not what you decide, not what central scouting decides.
No, that's right. It's what they think, our best player. But then the other thing that he did say, he goes, when it does come up, though? He said, when you get down and you're in the 5th or 6th round and you look up and you realize you've taken 6 defensemen, somebody at the table will say, we better probably take a forward to have him in this group.
Nobody said that with the Islanders in 2012. They took only defensemen.
Yeah. So
only defensemen. That's all they drafted. 7 defensemen.
Yeah. Right. So, and he said always when you get later in the draft, that's when personalities start, like the strongest personality, it starts.
Well, I mean, based on the Hall of Fame, I have to say it again. Christer Rockstrom, everybody thinks, the Rangers, they finally took Lundqvist in the 7th round. They got lucky. And it's like, no. He was arguing from the 1st round on. And they took another goalie ahead of Lundqvist. It's just his arguing was so strong that finally by the 7th round, they're like, fine, we'll take your guy.
Yeah.
It's crazy, and it's. I mean, obviously, these kids are so young; it's hard to tell where they're going to go.
It's not the NFL; it's not a guarantee.
Yeah, I mean, what they're going to develop into, what they're going to be. You can only base it on and sometimes you see guys that just develop crazy.
I mean, the rare ones are like Marc-Andre Fleury. Like the minute I saw him, I'm like, this guy's an NHL goalie. Like you just know it. But goalies are impossibly hard.
I felt that way about Sorokin, which is why I've always been so high on Sorokin. Because I felt like the second I saw.
But he already had a career in the KHL. I don't know how you would have felt about him if you didn't see him in the KHL.
He was young in the KHL. That's when he was playing. So it was like
he wasn't a first-round pick. Shesterkin wasn't a first-round pick. That's the whole thing.
No,
and the other thing is like Ekblad. When I saw him in juniors, I was like, okay, this guy's making it to the NHL. He's already huge. He's already fast. He's already strong. There really was nothing holding Aaron Ekblad back. You could see that. You didn't have to be a draft guy.
Yeah. Has he been a disappointment?
But most guys are not like that.
Has Aaron Ekblad been a disappointment?
The injury hurt. The injuries hurt him. You can't say that. I mean, he's talented. but the injuries have really hurt him over his
The
career.
injuries have hurt him a lot. I mean, and I'm not saying.
I mean, he's still pretty much a leader on the team, and he's still taking them pretty
Yeah,
far.
I mean, I like him a lot, but I'm just, first overall pick. Has he done that? Has he done the?
I don't think he's a disappointment. I think, like Mike said, injuries played a factor. But I mean, how old is he? Is he 25?
He's still young.
27.
27. Like, come on.
Yeah, no, he's still very, very young. That was 10 years ago. We were in Philly for that draft.
Oh, yeah.
All right. That's all the time we have for today, folks. We'll be back again on Monday. Hope you have a great weekend. Now, this afternoon, I'm going to be doing a lot of updating on Hockey Buzz, so check into it. The whole rumor chart. I had lunch today with a guy I really trust, the source I really trust. So I'm kind of excited about what's going to happen. And this is the Friday, Saturday, Sunday before the draft, which often is a busy weekend. So we could see some
Busy for me. I know that.
We could see some things moving around. We could see some things shifting here. And the period of time between the draft and July 1st is really small this year. And that's another thing that's coming. That's another thing that's coming. Like, people are talking about that quite a bit too, because there really is not a whole lot of, you got to really figure out what you're doing to get your money in place by July 1st. So there's a lot going on. Remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey. We will talk to you then. Stay tuned.